Turkey, the jewel box of the Middle East. Massive tectonic and volcanic upheavals have shaped a succession of varied landscapes that seem to change at every turn. And a kaleidoscope of creatures live in the different environments that have been created. The contrasts of climate and terrain bring opportunity to its inhabitants, but also momentous challenges. The fight for life is a daily battle in this diverse country. Turkey. Sitting at the northwesternmost edge of the Middle East, it links these desert lands to Europe. Huge upheavals have left 80% of its terrain rough, broken, and mountainous. Combined with climatic variations, this has spawned a huge variety of habitats and inhabitants. It is in fact so biologically diverse, it can be compared to a small continent. But now, Turkey lies in deepest winter. Snow blankets the ground, in some areas for up to 120 days of the year. And in the easternmost mountains, temperatures can plummet to minus 40 degrees Celsius. Food is scarce. Many animals have migrated to warmer climates or have retreated into hibernation. But a formidable predator stalks these ranges: the European lynx. She is a solitary hunter and a master of this frigid landscape. Her wide paws act like snowshoes, preventing her from sinking into the soft snow. Keen senses allow her to track the prey that is left, eking out an existence here. Largest of the lynx species, she is capable of tackling animals the size of deer. But even this incredible hunter is not at the top of the food chain. Grey wolves are larger than the lynx and operate in packs of up to 36. So the lynx is wise to remain out of sight. Rigid discipline is enforced in the wolf pack to keep subordinates in line. But the pack also share close social bonds and are normally related to each other. Cooperation benefits all, as lone hunting can be less successful and more dangerous. A pack can better defend a productive territory from others and supply additional food when the breeding pair are raising their young. In the snowy highlands range flocks of Anatolian mouflon. This species of wild sheep is endemic to Turkey and prime prey for the wolves of this high country. Living at over 1,000 meters on exposed territories, mouflon have had to evolve to cope with this harsh environment. A long, dense winter coat helps to counteract the sub-zero temperatures. And food must be prized from the ground's icy grip. Digging up plant tubers will sustain them until better times arrive. But this lack of food and biting cold over the long winter can make even the toughest struggle. And this lone wolf is desperate for a meal. Mouflon rely on well-developed senses to detect predators and stay out of range. But this wolf's approach remains unnoticed. When he's finally spotted, the fleeing mouflon trigger his chase instincts, and he rushes at them. Prey like the mouflon can often outsprint wolves on flat ground, but deep snow and slopes can even things out. He can also call on his amazing stamina to chase them down, as wolves have been known to pursue their quarry for over 20 kilometers. Closing ranks, the mouflon make it hard for him to single out and isolate a victim. But panic sets in as he gains ground. And it is a quick kill. It is mostly the old and the weak that are taken by predators in the winter months. Only the strong survive this harsh land. As spring advances on Turkey, winter's coat begins to vanish, one drop at a time. Snowmelt and spring rains cascade off these mountainous slopes, swelling the rivers into churning torrents. Over the years, these waters have cut through this terrain to produce steep gorges and vertical cliffs. Here, Anatolian wild goats live life on the very edge. In a place where few fear to tread, the wild goats browse, drawn by the fresh spring shoots, untouched by others. As the cold waters froth below, they know one wrong move could prove fatal. Yet despite the 200-meter drops, they move confidently across this terrain. Young and old feed and play in this death trap. Occasionally, they make a misjudgment. But ruthless evolution has led to this animal possessing some incredible attributes to cope with its high-wire lifestyle. They have an enlarged incredibly sensitive middle ear that gives them an amazing sense of balance. Their rectangular pupils give them wraparound vision. Splitting into 2 toes, their spreadable cloven hooves help them to cope with uneven terrain. The strong, hard edges of the toes can be wedged into cracks and onto narrow ledges. And the hooves' rubbery soles provide excellent grip on these treacherous slopes. Being such crack mountaineers allows them to plunder the rich pickings untouched by other grazers. Yet in their high-rises, they must stay alert to potential predators. Their sense of smell and hearing are good, but when winds whistle through these gorges, it's safer to rely on your eyes. Sensing danger, wild goats will often flee to the most extreme terrain, where they can outclimb and outmaneuver pursuers. But this female brown bear is not after the wild goats on these unstable slopes. Weak from a long winter hibernation, she has found herself in a perilous situation. Rain is making these already dangerous rock faces treacherous. And she is being pursued by the most deadly thing in a bear's world, another bear. Male bears desperate to mate will pursue females for days or weeks. They can kill any newborn cubs that females may have to improve their own breeding success. Potentially volatile and dangerous, she has every right to be intimidated. Trying to avoid his advances, she's taking big risks. Finally, she reaches the relative safety of the forest. Not desperate enough to risk a fall, the male retreats. Varied altitudes and climate have allowed a multitude of different forest types to spread across Turkey. But in the higher elevations, it is conifers that dominate the landscape. Forests are vital ecosystems, containing the majority of Turkey's 9,000 plant species. This huge diversity provides for those animals emerging in the spring. Brown bears are ravenous after their long winter hibernation. Some can lose a staggering 40% of their body weight during this deep sleep. This young male will rely heavily on his amazing sense of smell to track down food in the coming months. As rain sweeps into these alpine forests, he benefits from another attribute, a double-layered coat. His long, coarse guard hairs help to shed water away from his insulating underfur. As does a good shake. His home range may cover over 2,000 square kilometers, among the largest of all land mammals. But he's not territorial, and this area may overlap with many other bears. Meetings can be social, but there is a hierarchy to be observed. Yet this precocious young male decides to test his mettle. This boisterous play could end badly if he gets on the wrong side of this dominant male. It's better not to push your luck. Not with the big boys. This youngster's claws are fearsome weapons, but they're also useful tools. Evolved for digging and ripping, they can also be a help on slippery surfaces. Tree climbing isn't normally a large bear's speciality, but this tree has been blown over in a storm. Brute strength and strong claws allow him to haul his several hundred kilograms of bulk ever higher, albeit with some difficulty. The young pine nuts in these cones are a high table feast and will keep him out of trouble for now. More than half of Turkey sits at over 1,000 meters, and at its center lies a huge high-altitude massif, the Anatolian Plateau. The Pontic Mountains in the north and the Taurus Mountains in the south act as barriers to the moisture that would otherwise roll in from the seas, creating a harsh, arid environment, but one which supports high numbers of unique plant species, which in turn nourish the animals of these dry slopes. After many months in hibernation, the warm spring days allow this male spur-thighed tortoise to become more active. And he has got one thing on his mind. A female has caught his eye. But even chasing after a mate is not a rapid activity. The tortoise's slow pace means it relies heavily on its shell for defense. And for this female, that includes the aggressive advances of males. He will bully her with sickening impacts. And finally, she gives in to this barrage and allows the male to mate with her. Wherever animals play out their lives, waste is left behind, and flying cleaners are never far away. Fresh tortoise poo is a treasure trove for this dung beetle. But it takes a lot of energy and time to form this precious food into a dung ball so that it can be rolled to a safer location. Unfortunately, others are also arriving in hopes of a meal. And it's much less effort to steal a ready-rolled takeaway. So thievery is common. He's fought off this raider, but being on the move presents just as many problems in this rocky terrain. Speed is essential, despite the tough going. Too long in the sun, and the nutritious liquids in his ball will dry out. Going uphill is hard, but sometimes downhill hurts a lot more. Luckily, his tough exoskeleton can take a real pounding. Burying it in a moist patch of earth will provide a safe place to devour his hard-won prize. Spring warmth encourages hardy plants to erupt from these soils, supporting the mouflon that have made it through the winter. They've already begun shedding their thick coats, as summer temperatures here can exceed 30 degrees Celsius. It can be an extreme environment, but this more moderate spring weather allows the young mouflon to grow and prepare for the coming changes. While they play, the flock stay alert. They know their young are vulnerable to the predators of these high plains. Other flocks require outside help. The Middle East was one of the first places in the world to domesticate sheep. Bred for increasing returns of wool, milk, or meat, and not for survival against predation, domesticated animals can naturally be more vulnerable. Brought onto the steppe to feed, the sheep are watched over by a shepherd. He can guide them to new pastures and protect them from predators during the day. But nighttime defense requires additional help. And its source is the very enemy of the herd. The descendants of wolves, domesticated over 10,000 years ago, have become man and sheep's best friend here, the Anatolian shepherd dogs. The dogs have grown up with these sheep. They have developed a close bond and are accepted into the flock.
Go, go, go!
This closeness leads to an intuition, an ability to pick up on the behavior and dynamics of the group, which, along with the dog's own keen senses, can alert them to the presence of predators in the growing gloom. Their barks sound as a warning to predators to stay away and alert the shepherd to any potential trouble. If it comes down to it, these big, strong, and fearless dogs will fight to the death to protect their family, this flock. The spiked collars, known as totes, are there to protect their vulnerable throats against attack, their only added weaponry. Once the terrifying hunter, through generation upon generation, this descendant of the wolf has become the guardian of its prey. Lying at a jumbled junction of tectonic plates, deadly earthquakes still plague this country. The huge forces here have crushed and folded it into a mountainous land and presided over a violent volcanic history. These savage powers have resulted in some stunning geological forms. No more so than in Cappadocia, in the heart of Turkey. 65 million years ago, numerous volcanic eruptions deposited huge amounts of lava, basalt, and ash in this region. These eruptions can be seen stacked upon each other in layer after layer. The compacted ash forms a soft rock called tuff, which is easily eroded, forming wonderful jagged valleys and mysterious columns called fairy chimneys. Here the soft tuff is protected by a hard cap of rock above, preventing the pillar from being worn away. Where water and wind-blown sand have cut away at the rock, caves and crevices have formed, providing shelter for wild pigeons and other wildlife. The volcano's grasp on this land is strong. Even now, the dormant Mount Argius watches over a unique environment that it has helped to shape. It looms over Lake Yai, which is home to its own fiery occupants, Greater Flamingos. They flock to these waters because of its unique composition. The volcanic landscape is full of mineral salts. Washed into these waters, they are concentrated through evaporation to form a highly saline lake. Not much can live in this hostile place, but what does thrives, and these elegant birds take full advantage. Long legs allow them to wade out into the shallow lake, where they stamp to stir up the sediment. A powerful tongue pumps water through the sieve-like beak, filtering out colorful crustaceans and algae, whose pigments are concentrated into the flamingo's own bright pink plumage. They will gorge themselves when they can, as they know the weather can change rapidly. Rough waters make it difficult for them to feed. So they will leave for more protected stretches. The extremes of this high country contrast with the coastal areas. Here a milder climate prevails and different ecosystems thrive. The outgoing tide laps against these golden Mediterranean beaches, allowing furtive figures to emerge. Ghost crabs scuttle busily across these sands, their hard exoskeletons matching the golden hue, so that when they pause, they seem to disappear. Maintaining their burrows is an important daily chore. Elevated eyes give them almost 360-degree vision, so they can keep watch as they clear out the fresh sand washed in by the previous high tide. It's an important time of year for the crabs. Although the Mediterranean's waves continually fill in their homes, they also bring a rich bounty. In the cool night, an ocean nomad arrives. She has journeyed for thousands of kilometers, managing to home in on the beach where she was born, over 20 years ago. But the journey is not over for this female loggerhead turtle. She must dig a nest and lay her own eggs on her ancestral beach. For this, she needs to get far enough up the beach so that any high tides will not drown her eggs. Without the weightlessness of her watery world, she is finding her expedition an exhausting, slow crawl. She may only mate every 4 years, but when she does, she can nest 6 times, laying over 100 eggs on each visit. She is sensitive to any disturbance at this time. If she feels unsure, she will return to the water and try again another night. Having carefully selected the right position on these sands, she begins to dig her nest using her powerful flippers. Further along the beach, there are new arrivals. Hatchlings from this season's early nesters are emerging. Most predators are avoided under the cover of darkness, but this is what the ghost crabs have been waiting patiently for. As the hatchlings race for the safety of the sea, the crabs can pick them off. This glut of food is vital for the ghost crab's own life cycle. And with so many turtles emerging at once, plenty of hatchlings will also get through to begin their lives in the oceans. Bordering this crucial turtle hatchery lies the Dalyan Delta, one of Turkey's most important wetlands. It provides a vital stopover for migrating birds, as well as a plentiful home for its many residents. The delta and the surrounding wetlands are a mixture of salty and freshwater environments. covering over 40 square kilometers. This maze of reed beds, shallow waterways and lakes harbors bizarre beasts. Clawed webbed feet, a snorkel-like snout, and white horny jaws make the African soft-shell turtle an unforgettable sight. Now critically endangered, the dalian is an important refuge for these alien-like creatures. The leathery-like skin allows for oxygen to be absorbed straight from the water, so these turtles can get as much as 70% of the oxygen they need through their skin, meaning they don't have to surface for hours. But spring is an important time, and this male is attempting to mate with a female. Not an easy task, it appears, especially when other males try to get in on the act. In this confusing mass of limbs, heads, and bodies, it's hard to tell what is amorous and what is aggression. But eventually the unwanted suitor is fought off and the couple can mate. In time, the female will lay her eggs within the banks of the wetland or the nearby beach, maintaining this important population for generations to come. Although these waterways have created a rich haven for wildlife, they have also led to the downfall of an ancient civilization. Over 3,000 years, Kaunos was a major seaport, strategically important to each of the different empires that once controlled it. But over the centuries, the silt washed down in the Dalian River built and expanded these wetlands. The coast moved ever further from the city, and ships increasingly struggled to gain access. The shallow, still waters allowed for mosquitoes to colonize the area en masse, and a malarial plague swept through the city in the 15th century. Finally, the city succumbed and was abandoned. Within these mighty ruins, nature has now taken hold. And this once dead city is again alive with life. Olive trees embrace the ancient citadel. Dwarf snakes hunt amongst the jumbled remnants. And performers retake the stage of this ancient amphitheater. The male starred agama basks in the sun. The warmth of the early morning light raises his body temperature. Being cold-blooded, he needs this heat to perform at his peak, as he will be challenged by many upstarts for his harem of mates. This ruin provides an ideal rocky habitat. And the only way to maintain this prime real estate is to dominate the other males waiting in the wings. So he begins his daily battle. He uses ritualistic head bobbing to assert himself. As he moves through his territory, other males watch for any signs of weakness. But his aggressive and energetic display is keeping competitors away. Whilst he reaches for the sun, they retreat into the shadows. None can compete with his stage presence. There is plenty of life in the King of Kaunas. High above the coastal lands, Alpine meadows are also full of life. Bursting through lush grass are a staggering volume and variety of flowers. Honeybees hover amongst these brightly colored landing pads. Bees are vital insects in the natural world. They are responsible for the pollination of a staggering number of flowering plants, without whom their survival is under threat. Declines in bee numbers around the world are a serious problem. Luckily, this population is in great health. Collecting nectar and pollen in massed swarms, all these foraging bees are sisters, sent out to provide for the colony. Pollen is rich in protein, and bees collect this nutritious food using special structures called pollen baskets on their hind legs. Heavily laden, they can carry 35% of their body weight in these large yellow bundles. Nectar is high in glucose and minerals. In a concentrated form, it is stored as honey. 120 kilograms of honey is required to keep the colony alive through the year. Workers must also collect water for the hive. They suck this up using their long proboscis and store it in their crops, in the same way as they collect nectar. Water is important as the summer temperatures rise. It is collected and taken to the hive, where it is spread in a thin film. As it evaporates, it cools the colony. A similar principle to human sweating. At around 60,000 strong, this colony is at the height of its powers. A success thanks to this rich and varied country. On grassland near Lake Yai, Anatolian ground squirrels are early risers. In spring, they emerged from their burrows after a long winter hibernation, and there was a flurry of activity to feed, mate, and bring up their young. But it's a short year for this male. In just a few months, he will once again be preparing to sleep through the autumn and winter, so he needs to bulk up. Using his strong digging claws, he can remove succulent plant tubers. Shedding the outer sheaths, he gorges on the energy-rich core. When in groups, there is a constant status chatter to warn of any potential dangers. But foraging alone means he has to be extra cautious. A marsh harrier patrols close to the ground. Gliding to avoid detection, she uses her keen eyesight and hearing to detect a meal. Underground is out of reach. But she's already honed in on an easier target, a rotting animal carcass. These times of plenty inevitably see casualties, yet they are necessary if others are to feed their families. Egyptian vultures can't smell a potential meal, so rely on their vision to spot food. Descending from the skies, these scavengers play an important cleaning role in the ecosystem, including reducing the spread of disease. And despite their diet, they are themselves scrupulously clean animals. As the summer heat bakes this land, temperatures can reach almost 50 degrees Celsius. The lush days of spring are far behind. Black harvester ants stream out across their territory to farm the now dry grasslands. To them, the blades of grass they scale are like skyscrapers. Yet they work doggedly to cut and remove the individual seeds. The organization to collect this bounty seems too complicated for such a tiny insect. But ants have surprisingly large brains for their size, and following simple methods, this mass of ants works like a more complex organism. When a harvesting area is decided upon, chemical markers are laid down to recruit more foragers, who in turn lay more chemical markers. Communicating through smell and touch, the army is soon moving as one. Efficiency is everything. And at the colony entrance, the husks of stripped seeds are deposited in a midden. Autumn will be a short season at these altitudes, and the winter snows will soon be bearing down. What the ants collect now will be used to feed the colony through those barren times. brutal tectonic forces. Earthquakes and volcanoes have twisted and shaped this mountainous land. Turkey's violent geology has led to biting winters and baking summer heat. Multicolored Martian landscapes and watery wonderlands, meaning Turkey's wildlife